welcome to my roundup of the last day, the final of this Champions Tour, sponsored by Goldmoney. Oh yeah, give me some gold money, and by Meltwater over the series of events. And this is going to decide the prize fund, the difference in prize fund, and also who's going to get the points to qualify for the final of the finals. Now, going in today, Aronian in the final, so you had this battle between Aronian and Artemiev for first and second position, had a 2.5, 1.5 lead. So Aronian only need to draw the rapid section today. And remember, I've been doing coverage every day if you want to catch up. Out of the 4 rapid games, if Aronian gets 2 points, he is the winner, as then Artemiev can only draw against him with 2 points as well. In the battle for third place, Magnus Carlsen is also ahead, so the same goes for Magnus. He only needs to draw the rapid section. Now let's start with the Magnus Carlsen match. Magnus played horribly in the rapid. He wasn't really with it today. Maybe his interest level just wasn't there. And Liren won the first 3 games. Bit greedy. He only needs to win the first 2.5. So that took it into the blitz section. And there was quite a big... They're fighting for a big amount of money here. And Ding really needed to win the blitz to get some points for the overall standings. What happens with the Champions Tour, the best players from all the mini events get invited to the grand finale, prize money central. Magnus had white in the first of the blitz games. The time limit is blitz, it's 5-minute chess plus a couple of seconds per move. Only 2 games. If someone gets a plus score, it's over. Magnus now starts with e4. This seems to be his preferred move of late. And we're going to go through the opening moves quite quickly. So it starts off with a standard Rule Lopez here. And Ding plays knight f6. I'm shortly going to be bringing you a video on how to learn this opening. That'll be coming out soon, so I won't go too much detail into it now. Bishop e7, and this is the way that most players historically have played the Rule Lopez, combined with b5. You could have played b5 a move ago, it doesn't make much difference. We saw Lev in the video I made yesterday playing bishop c5, which is a very interesting option as well. But bishop e7 is safer. And now rook e1, c3 are moves, but d3 is a much more slower positional approach. I would say the modern variation of the Rule Lopez. I mean, historically, like I mentioned, you play like rook e1, b5, the bishop drops back, d6, now the knight can move because e5, c3, and you get this kind of standard position. Or if black wants, black can play castle's kingside, and after c3, the Marshall Gambit. d3 from white has the advantage of really not allowing the Marshall Gambit, because white is much more solidly set up there. His bishop on c1 can develop. It can't develop in the Marshall, but again, I'll be bringing you a video on this soon. So now b5, bishop b3, d6, and now there is a positional threat, which I've fallen into as white. This bishop is a very powerful piece, and you don't want to allow black to swap it off. Only black can be better there. So when that is a threat, and it is now that black's defending e5, so the knight here can move without losing that pawn, you should play c3. And the bishop can now drop back if it's ever in danger. Castles, a very important move in these variations, a4. You want to try to prove that b5 is a slight weakness and get play on the queen side. Bishop d7, black simply developing. Bishop c2. And now a normal move in the Rule Lopez from black, rook e8. You have to be quite patient in these positions. Black's sometimes preparing for the opening of the center, but mainly preparing to move this bishop to f8 and later on to g7. Again, that could be a better diagonal. If you try to do that plan right from the start, as black, you're lacking a lot of time. You can get a lot of trouble. Rook e1, another normal move, and this also has the benefit of allowing the typical knight maneuver. White still has to get these 2 pieces out. h6, and the knight now does come along, and both sides play normal kind of plans here. h3, the rook slides over. This is a normal move, trying to get some space. And now black playing this, I think, so far very nicely. This next move also very important, knight e7. And this sort of maneuver that black does with these 3 pieces improves his position. because now you can either put a knight on g6 or the pawn and bishop on that square, but also you have this extra protection on the queen side. Magnus has to do something on that area of the board at some point, and he decides to capture and use the space advantage. This is where white's relying on his edge for this space advantage, but black is very solid. And the thing about this game is I don't really know where Ding went wrong. He seemed to play all perfectly good moves, and this is the sign of a real champion. A real champion wins with us not really knowing what. But a very important moment happened later on. So they maneuver about. Both sides playing what looks to me very natural moves. Remember, it's the first blitz game. A draw is a very good result for Ding. And here you can even see there might be some problems over here. King h2, and this is a very normal maneuver to get the knight there. Now, next move, very, very good, because there is a danger here of some knight coming in here and some sacrifice, like bishop takes, pawn takes, queen g2, checkmate. So this next maneuver is very clever. Bishop d3, knight here, bishop f1. And this just is over defending the king side. So having that sense of danger, looking at what your opponent's plans are and making sure you stop them while just keeping the tension. And the game continues, and I found the critical point came after knight c5 and now bishop takes c5. And I think everyone, pretty much everyone in the world here, and I was watching it, it's one of England's strongest grandmasters, David Howe, who's been over 2700, was also shocked at this next move. And this next move is just incredible, I think. Nearly anyone would play bishop takes c5 here. And I believe nearly anyone would play this move and just play the game. You've got two bishops. Maybe white is slightly better, but I don't think it's much. Magnus now doubles his pawns with b takes c5, and everyone's like, what on earth is this? How many people would on purpose double their pawns, kill the range of their bishop, make their pawn structure more ugly? And this was just simply brilliant. The sign of a world champion. What makes him different, shall we say, to other 2700 grandmasters. And I suddenly realized that the point in this move is mainly that you want to use your rook, and you want to use your rook on this d6 square. How's black ever going to meet that? The only way he can meet that, otherwise the rook is just very strong, is by aiming to exchange his rook off. If we had a bishop on c5, this would be fine for black. Bishop takes c5, no big deal. But with a pawn on c5, we can take with the pawn, and suddenly this pawn would be really dangerous for white, right? It's two squares from queening. And I think this is the very nice plan, and the rest of the game was just brilliant. There's also a tactical idea here. So for example, if black plays a move like rook d8, try and stop this, knight takes e5, and white wins a safe pawn. So you have to first play f6, and now just rook d1. Now Ding had a long think here, because it's also, because Magnus has done what you need to do in chess, restrain your opponent's ideas, bishop f1, brilliant, and then improve your own ideas, stop your opponent, that's what he's doing, improve your own ideas. It's really, Ding is already struggling in what looks like a position that should be okay for him. Why should he be struggling with all his pieces seemingly okay placed? He played king h7, waiting. The only move I can think of is something bizarre like knight to h8. And the point being, the knight can try to cover that square on f7. But I'm not entirely convinced by this idea either. And after king h7, well, now rook d6, and it's really unpleasant. There's ideas of Magnus coming in, trying to win the pawn on c6. There's ideas of him playing c4 at the right moment. Ideas eventually of playing g3, trapping that knight. And the next move is very understandable, because it's not just these ideas. What can black actually play here? His last two moves have not really done anything, and he can't just move his king around forever while Magnus slowly infiltrates. He needs to do something. So he plays f5, and this is an understandable move, but Magnus just plays perfectly. First of all, bishop takes f5. Black now would maybe like to take the knight, but just knight takes e5, and after pawn takes e4, queen c1, the knight has to move, and the knight is in trouble. This pawn is going to be captured. Look how strong this rook is. For example, knight g6, and the queen comes in white is winning here, funnily enough. Black's piece is terrible. So he has to go pawn takes f4, and now knight d4. These pieces coming to life. And this position, the c6 pawn is threatened, is horrible. Knight e5, defending c6. And now look at the queen. Queen b1, noticing weaknesses here, hoping to get the queen into e4, just winning. So g6, but g6 is creating more holes around the black king. Queen c1, attacking this square, just prodding. Bishop d7, and now pawn takes f5. It's time to open up the position. This is on pre. Black is lost. g5, and now the queen comes back. It's prodded more weaknesses. The queen now comes in, centralizing beautifully, all because of this rook. Queen e8, and now knight e6, just getting in the way of black's communication. And after knight f7, a brilliant finish. Magnus can't win just by using his pieces here. He's got to get his bishop on f1 in the game, and he does that by bishop d3. Checkmate coming. Beautiful win. Ding was not able to win the next game, so Magnus took third place. Great play. That's why he's the world champ. Now the game let's talk about Aronian's match. Aronian won the first two games. In the first game, Vladislav with white did a very optimistic sacrifice and ended up losing. And the second game, Aronian with the white pieces only needs to win with white. And Vladislav could have tried to draw and then win the last two, but the opening he picked the perk. And the perk is very risky because you give away the center, and giving it away the center at this level is quite, you have to be quite careful. Now one of the strategies that annoys me the most whenever I play the perk is exactly what Aronian does here. Just knight f3 and c3. This is a very simple way of getting a small advantage because you're nice space in the center. You avoid a lot of the tactical lines that you might get with knight c3, d6, and let's say bishop e3, and now a6, because with the knight on c3, the idea of b5, b4 becomes a lot more possible. But this idea, which is Tiger's Modern, Ginger GM has a DVD on this if you want to buy it. It's very cheap in our shop. Just follow the link below. It's presented by Tiger Hillett Person himself, the world's leading expert. But if we go for the setup in the game, this Tiger setup, it doesn't work because there's no point pushing the pawn. It's not attacking anything. So now we get simple development from both sides, castling. And here, I mean, black is probably okay, but this center must make it easier for white to play. I think maybe one of the strategies black should do here is b6, and just to try and create some attack from the side here, maybe go for e5. In the end, c5 was played, and he's trying to pressurize d4, so a very nice move from Aronian, taking away bishop g4, which would increase the pressure on that square. As long as Aronian can maintain his pawns here, he's going to have a space advantage and an easier game. He puts his pieces behind those pawns. e5 is one of those moves you don't really want to play as black because d5 is now always weak. And Aronian just develops. Simple play. Brings his pieces in. Black tries to develop. His last piece finds a useful file against the queen. And now he takes a decision, which again, I don't think I would do. But it's a good decision. I see this square and I want to get a piece to this square, but he plays a much more concrete line. And this is what these players do. They don't mind changing one advantage to the other. And his concrete line is that after b4, he's just trying to open up the queen side. Maybe black is okay here, but white is still pressurizing. Black now plays for the main break now that the position's closed, like in the King's Indian, f5. Knight f1, and black now gets f5 in. And after pawn takes f5, we come to the critical moment in this game, maybe the match, even though obviously Artemiev's in a really tricky position. He's got to get 2.5 out of these 3 games and win the playoff. He now played what looks normal, pawn takes here, keeping these pawns together, and it takes very clever play from Aronian just to refute this. This would be nice if black can get more pieces around. These pawns could be very useful. In actual fact, he should play knight takes when it's about even, because all of a sudden he gets his other knight around, and it's playable, this position for black. The problem with the natural pawn takes, which is positionally desirable for black, keeping the pawns together so they can look after each other, is that after the brilliant bishop g5, all of a sudden white's pawns, especially f5, become a real target and he can't maintain them. For example, e3, and the knight is trying to get in here, but now the brilliant knight g3. Black's position is just crumbling. He can't maintain that structure with his f5 pawn going. And after pawn takes here, another brilliant move, knight takes f5. Aiming for this pin, black tries knight e5, blocking off the file, but now some more brilliant play. Can you see the right continuation here? Aronian gets rid of that key piece. He is a piece down, but he's foreseen rook takes e5, and this is brilliant. And after the forced sequence d6, the queen moves. He can now take the knight, but he can even improve with queen f3. And even though he's a whole rook down, he's attacking the rook, he's attacking the knight, and he's ready to come in with the two bishops against black's king. A very energetic play from Aronian. Artemiev sacrifices rook with the idea that in this position he can play queen c6, and all of a sudden is Aronian losing. g2 is on pre, rook a8, trapping the queen is coming. And again, you have to be so brave to play this way. He plays f3, getting ready to play bishop e4, which if black plays a quiet move will just win the game. Now Aronian, remember, there's a lot of pawns up here. Rook a8, has he lost his queen here? No, he's foreseen the amazingly brilliant d7. And this is diverting the queen away from the b6 pawn. And as soon as we take on b6, I think it's clear to see Aronian's like 3 pawns up with the attack. The rest of the game is easy. So congratulations to Aronian for coming first. Vladislav had a good tournament coming second. Magnus third place. But really happy for Aronian, who hasn't won a major event for a long time. And I think, as I said yesterday, in the last event I had him at 25 to 1. I think I had 100 pounds on it. I would have won 2,500 if he won that one. Of course he wins the next event where I haven't put any bets on at all. Just typical, eh? But anyway, time your event wins better next time, please, Aronian. But well done to Aronian. Very happy for him. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel.